Flying is the safest form of travel available, unless you fly out of one of the following 10 airports. Today we're gonna talk about the 10 most dangerous airports in the world. Number 10. Paro Airport, Bhutan. If you want to fly Bhutan, you only have one choice, which is Paro Airport. It is the only airport in the entire country. It is one of the most dangerous airports in the world. Landing there is like a life or death experience. Bhutan is a small country surrounded by mountains, which makes it for planes nearly impossible to descend and land in the city between the mountains. The pilot has to sight multiple things while landing because a tiny mistake can lead to a fatal crash. The pilot has to face heavy turbulence caused by the powerful mountain winds. Upon the landing, passengers literally cheer up. They do so to simply celebrate the fact that they are still alive. If you are a pilot and you think you can fly Bhutan's dangerous skies, you are totally wrong. Currently 8 people are only qualified to fly the Paro airport, and even they can only arrive at a daytime when the visibility is 100% and the weather is clear. Number 9. Courchevel Airport, Saba Island. The typical airport runway ends anywhere between 8,000 to 13,000 feet, whereas Courchevel Airport has no room for such luxury. Its runway is the shortest runway than any commercial airport in the world, which stretches a 400 meter or 1,300 feet. That is not much more than a length of 4 football fields, and it leaves zero room for error by the pilots. Whoever visited Saba Island and decided to build an airport there didn't consider the location that much. Courchevel Airport is directly built below the mountain and right next to the sea. This means that one side of the runway lies mountain edge and the other side is straight cliffs that drop straight into the ocean. If the pilot doesn't land perfectly on the runway, everybody on the board is in trouble. Perhaps it's not shocking that most planes cannot land here. Even commercial jets are banned for even attempting to arrive at this airport. The Netherlands Civil Aviation Authority allows regional propeller aircraft to land there as long as they sign the proper waivers, which means the Dutch are not interested in being responsible for any accident. Number 8. Courchevel Airport, France. If you are wealthy enough for a vacation at super exclusive Courchevel ski resort in France, then you can only reach here by Courchevel Airport. This airport features another super short runway which stretches only 1,722 feet. The plane has to drop into a steep cliff, meaning if the plane doesn't gather enough speed while racing down to the runway for takeoff, the plane is liable to go careening into the water. Even the landing is not easier. An imperfect landing would mean either a watery fate or a fiery crash into a tower or even the airport itself. But in addition, the runway dips downward. It only dips to an 18.6% angle, but most pilots are trained to deal with straight runways that don't dip or droop in any way. To fly in or out Courchevel Airport, the pilot needs to unlearn what they have learned in the past, and when you are in the air, there is a sight issue of Alps themselves. Instruments are useless due to the impaired sight, meaning pilot must fly around the mountains by sight and without instructions from the ground control. The only direction they get is to not to fly around the airport due to those pesky Alps. In short, the pilot better figure out where is the runway and how best is to land there. Number 7. Tenzing Hilri Airport, Nepal. In 2010, History Channel ranked the most dangerous airport in the world over a 20-year period. Coming at number 1 was Tenzing Hilri Airport in Nepal, which was built in the middle of mountains and contained nearly whatever dangerous airport has into one tidy and deadly little package. For starters, the airport is roughly 9,500 feet above the sea level, meaning even while taking off and landing, a plane must deal with wind and turbulence. that is caused by ever-changing weather up in the Himalayas, which could arrive at any time. The runway itself is barely more than 1,700 feet long, and it sports mountain edges on one side, a stiff cliff on other, and a fun vertical drop off at one end. The tiny runway by danger is uneven and bumpy with an upward curve of around 12%. That is just enough angle to make planes lose speed and momentum while taking off, along with gaining too much speed while landing. This airport has recorded many injuries and deaths over 60 years history. Due to all this, Nepal airport only allows a small propeller planes and helicopters to operate here. The commercial jets are not allowed here. Number 6. Cristiano Ronaldo Airport. This airport named after a greatest football player in the history, but Portugal Cristiano Ronaldo Airport serves all the red flags for its dangerous history and shadow attempts to become safer. Originally, the runway Ronaldo was 5,249 feet long, far from the shortest runway ever, but also it is much shorter than the most. This resulted in a tragedy in the year 1977 when pilot missed out their landing and fell out of the runway and crashed into the beach right below. Its over 160 people died, forcing the airport to drastically enlarge the runway and ensure the passengers' safety. They did that. The runway is certainly larger now at over 9,100 feet, but unfortunately engineers failed to deal with weather. It's safer since the new construction is literally support on columns. The airport erected 180 columns right over the ocean and built their runway extension right on the top. These columns endure stress upon the landing, and the planes themselves often have to deal with the strong crosswind coming from the Atlantic Ocean. Nobody has died since 1977, but that might only because they have cancelled many flights due to windy weather. Number 5. Gibraltar International Airport. This airport has the name the way it is because whoever designed the place and chose its location must have rocks in their heads. The airport runway actually intersects with the road, and not just an road either. The runway actually cuts through the main road for entering and leaving Gibraltar, which has to shut down every time the planes need to pass through. Constantly busy border road has understandably leads to a massive traffic jams, and demand for a tunnel that would let the people to drive under the runway Gibraltar has begun the construction of the tunnel. But other needless delay is still not complete. As a result, if you are looking to enter or leave the territory, the only route remains in a road, in which you have to stop the traffic for planes to go through for landing or takeoff. The landing and takeoff is not easy for pilots as well, because the pilot has to deal with the massive wind and turbulence for landing and takeoff each and every day. This makes landings extra difficult for the pilots, and the pilot has to ensure that a plane won't crash into any vehicle on the road during the landing or the takeoff. Number 4. Narsarsuaq Airport. In 1941, the US Department of Defense built Narsarsuaq Airport in South Green after realizing that the country needed a second airport that could serve a large planes. That's wonderful, except for the part where they picked a terrible location and gifted a country with less than ideal runway. This airport is located around a fort, which means a strong crosswind and severe turbulence is there almost every day. Even when the weather is pleasant, the wind can make a life of pilot difficult. There is a mountain area surrounding the airport that the pilot must navigate before setting a sight on the runway, which is only 6,000 feet long, which is not even enough to tax a most skilled pilot, and there is also an active volcano nearby. The volcano tends to erupt fairly regularly, and when it does, it sends a tiny shards of silica everywhere. Silica is a sharp bit made from melting ice, so imagine shattered glass flying in all directions. This can and has easily damaged the plane and plane's engine. Sadly, the only thing pilot can hope for here is the volcano goes dormant, and there are currently no signs of that happening. Number 3. Toncontin Airport. Nobody should ever build the airport that is surrounded by the large jagged mountains, whereas the countries keep doing it, even if the result is needless tragedy. After needless tragedy, many consider Toncontin Airport is one of the most dangerous airports on the earth, and for a good reason. It is completely surrounded by the mountains. meaning the pilot cannot simply approach their heading head like in the normal airports. Instead, they must make a quick sharp descent and equally sharp quick turn. Only after that they can hardly hope to line up with the runway and prepare for landing. Many pilots have failed this task at the cost of lives. The first major accident occurred in 1989 when plane crashed into the mountainside by attempting its descent. All 132 people on board are dead. Since then, at least 5 planes and possibly more have also crashed into the mountains or the runway itself. These crashes have finally convinced owners to do something about this airport. The country have made many efforts to build new safer airport in nearby Ola. Once this happens, the small aircrafts and small domestic flights will be permitted to land at Toncontin Airport. Number 2. Princess Juliana International Airport. You have seen the pictures of planes arriving at Princess Juliana Airport in St. Martin. Viral shots of a plane flying right over the sunbathers at Maho Beach have gone viral on social media many times for a good reason. It looks pretty awesome, but the reason those planes fly so close to the Princess Juliana Airport is actually a pretty dangerous airport, with the shortest runway just 7,500 feet. The pilot have to touch down as early as humanly possible, which translates to low-flying aircraft that looks like they are buzzing right over the heads of Maho Beach residents. Unfortunately, this is not without risk. Strong wind and sand dust can rip through the beach and overwhelm the beach. But that's just the best case scenario. In worst case, this landing pattern can take lives. In 2017, a woman was too close to the landing plane and she wound up consumed by the jet blast. This unfortunately cost her her life. While such things don't happen often, but it is still a reality and makes that cool Instagram shot seems just little bit more fun. Number 1. Barra Airport, Scotland. Scotland's tiny little Barra Airport completely redefines what an airport is. Perhaps not for better. It won't look like an airport, but it looks like a single building overlooking the beach. The runway of this airport is right on the beach, and if it is high tide, the runway goes under the water. This leads the plane landing in water. If such landing is not made on the right time, landing on water may cause a fatal crash. Occasionally fog, clouds and darkness made landing extra difficult. Nearby cars have been known to use their headlights to give the pilot the lighting they need to make their landings. It's either that or a crash on beach. So it's good that everybody chips in to avoid such a mess.